Hey everyone, welcome to another K6 Office Hours. I am Nicole van der Hoeven.
And I, as usual, am Simme. And today we have a guest with us, Mostafa Moradian. He's a
Hello.
backend engineer here at K6 and has recently created a new feature for Prometheus Remote Write. So, why don't you introduce yourself, Mostafa?
Hello. Yes, Sima introduced me very well. I'm Mustafa, and I work as a backend developer in K6.io. Yeah, I have a background in programming, security, and networking, and now here I am a Python developer. So yeah, that's that.
And also German language translation, I read in
Oh
your
yeah,
readme.
yeah. So for bachelor, yeah, I studied German language translation, but then I changed to computer science in master. So yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. Another
Thank you.
like another person coming from a non-traditional background.
Yeah, most of my friends are from non-CS backgrounds, so yeah, I know how it works. We are more excited about computer science than the computer science students, as far as I saw. At least that's my experience.
So how come your every blog post isn't also in German?
Well, to be honest, English and my own language, like Persian, is more functional in my mind than German. German
Mhm.
is more of a like I've learned German through English, so it's a little bit like, for example, like German has been good in understanding Swedish for me. So I kind
Yeah.
of understand most of the words or some of the words in Swedish because of knowing German. But yeah, that's it.
That's great. So we've been wanting to get you on the show for a while, but this is just like the perfect opportunity. I've been wanting. I think the last week I also wanted to get you on just to make it just to show it off what you've done, but I think it was a little early. Can you tell us what you've done, what you created?
Yeah. Okay. So sorry for the last week. Uh, I wanted to join, but yeah, just it turned out that I couldn't because of some.
That's okay.
Uh, yeah. Anyway, so what I developed like in last year and this year is what is called the cloud APM or application performance management, which is a feature to send metrics in near real time to other like monitoring solutions, other APM solutions like Datadog, Azure Monitor, and recently what I've developed recently is Prometheus. So yeah, that's basically what I've developed, and it's like I've developed it in a way that can be extended with new protocols. Like for example, I can easily add statsd to the mix, but like instead of a statsd, we decided to go with Prometheus remote write, and then that's what I like developed in the last 2 months. So yeah, that's it.
So
uh
what is Prometheus anyway, and why did we decide to go for that?
okay, so that's a little bit broad question, but to narrow it a little bit down, yeah. So what we wanted to do is to have a more standard way of exposing basically metrics to a platform, so that users can like have that platform at hand, export their other kind of logs, metrics, events, and all sorts of observability kind of things to that platform, and also at the same time be able to see how their load test performs on the same platform, and so that they can correlate somehow on the platform and to observe how their performance tests or load tests um, would affect, like for example, their CPU or RAM usage in that platform that they are testing. You like I've developed Datadog and Azure Monitor using their REST APIs, but adding a new REST API kind of entails some sort of like trying to understand how that specific REST API works. And each REST API for each platform is different. So it's not a standard. Every new like vendor has its own API and has its own set of metrics serialization format and stuff. Some support some like some of them support tags in one way, the others support it in another way, and there are a lot of differences. So what we wanted to do is to go with a standard way of exporting metrics, and like we investigated some different methods. So you know that K6 has like built-in support for statsd. The K6 open source has built-in support for statsd. Then we thought that like statsd is good and fine, but like Prometheus and nearly the open metrics and open telemetry is a more standard thing to go with, and newer, and also that is supported by the CNCF and other vendors, and is becoming more widespread. So we thought it is better to go with this instead of statsd, which is a little bit older, and each vendor has its own implementation of statsd. As I don't know if you might know, like for example, the tags feature is not something native to statsd, and each vendor has its own implementation of tags on top of a statsd, which complicates things, complicates implementation and stuff. Anyhow, and anyway, so what is Prometheus? Back to the question. Prometheus is an like as a like a top level explanation would be, and Prometheus is an observability platform. So it's an APM platform, so to say, that accepts metrics, logs, events, and has features for alerting and some many other awesome features. And yeah, that's basically it. So let me show you something.
It's kind of cool with Prometheus as well that it really grown to become such a standard. I mean, as you say, statsd was such a good first step into doing this sort of things, but with Prometheus gaining more and more traction and then evolving into open telemetry, basically the data format for sending and receiving metrics over Prometheus, that really makes it so much easier for everyone to build these kind of services and have them integrate with each other. So I really think you were onto something by choosing this solution, for sure.
Indeed, yeah, indeed. So the thing is, like, one of the issues, like, basically, because I've worked with different platforms and different APIs, like statsd, Prometheus, like Datadog, Azure Monitor, each of them has their own format of explaining or exposing metrics. So some of them like support rate and counter and stuff. Like Prometheus supports some other things like histograms and exemplars and some other things. And like, for example, Datadog supports some other formats. So it's a little bit sometimes hard to try to match what we have internally inside our databases and stuff and how we like store them, then to like try to serialize them with each new format and try to send them with that. So Prometheus, in that sense, Prometheus helped us like standardize this format exposition, or this exposition format helped us by standardizing and sending in a format that like any hosted or vendor that support this feature could benefit from our like feature, our APM feature. So yeah,
we actually have two questions from Amrin, but I think we're gonna wait a little bit with those two because I think you might answer them as part of what you're going to show anyway. So we'll just wait a little bit with those. Did you want to share your screen, or what do you?
Yeah, of course. If you can, if it can be shared, yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. So what you're currently seeing is the internal architecture of Prometheus. We are only concerned about one or two parts of the whole architecture. So the audience might know about this, but Prometheus is like the only best implementation of open metrics and open telemetry as standards. So like it was first Prometheus, then it became a standard as like open telemetry and open Prometheus, but then they kind of somehow affected each other in terms of the format of the serialization formats and stuff. So there are two ways. What I wanted to explain here is how we export metrics to Prometheus. So there are two ways Prometheus accepts metrics. The default way, or how it does this process naturally, is by scrapping an endpoint on a server. So you expose so clients in a Prometheus clients expose an endpoint on a web on an API or some place like for example the URL slash metrics, and then on that endpoint they expose metrics with text format. So the original format for uh, exposing metrics to OpenTelemetry, Open Metrics, and Prometheus is text-based. Okay, and it entails that uh, if we want to export those metrics to other platforms and let a Prometheus provider uh, scrap those metrics, we would have to expose a port to the outside world and let a Prometheus instance scrap that endpoint and try to um, uh, kind of read metrics from us. So they pull metrics from us. This is not what we did. Like what we did is something called remote write. So when two Prometheus instances want to talk to each other, want to update each other in a cluster or in any type of formation, in an uplink, downlink kind of way, what they do is to use a binary protocol. So it's a protocol buffer, Google protocol buffer, which is also compressed. And what they do is that they, you see my cursor? Yeah, so what they do is that they expose metrics
Would you mind
manually.
zooming in a step or two, Mostafa?
Sorry?
Would you mind zooming in a step or two?
Yeah, let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, that can be
Awesome,
zoomed.
thanks.
Yeah, so, okay. You see a lot of components here, which are not to our interest, but what is interesting to me or to us is this path. So the target, scrap metrics, scrap manager, fan out storage, and local storage and remote storage. This specific path. So the normal path or the pool-based path of Prometheus is for the scrap manager to scrap metrics from endpoints. This is the normal way for a Prometheus client to expose a metric and for Prometheus to read that exposed endpoint and try using this fan out storage, which is also used for querying via PromQL, Prometheus query language, and many other things that you might see here. What it does, what the last thing the fan out storage does is to write time series data into a local storage. So in Prometheus terms, it is called TSDB. So the component is called a time series database, which handles kind of processing and storing time series data. So metrics data are basically time series data that are like written to an append only log or write ahead log inside TSDB and then on disk. Okay. So this fan out storage can write to local storage and also the remote storage. So what is a remote storage? A remote storage is a client to another Prometheus instance. Okay, so if you have two Prometheus instances, what you do in order to send metrics between these two is to is to configure the sending part to use something called remote write, as you might see here, to write series data to that another like remote write endpoint, which is another Prometheus instance or someone who exposed that remote write.
Okay, so if you and me have one Prometheus instance each, and we want to send data or have the data gathered by Nicole for aggregation, then we would set her Prometheus as our remote write target and write the data there. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. The other way around also works. So there is remote read, which is not, we are not interested in that. We can read from remote targets. So
okay.
That's something else.
And
anyway.
then they would present it the same way at a /metrics endpoint, just as the clients, or
No. It works the same as remote write, but it's remote read. So instead of writing to that endpoint, you read from that endpoint and then write to your own local database. So it's it's a little bit weird naming, but yeah, that's basically it. So what I wrote is this part. So I act like in our backend. I wrote something that acts as a remote write exporter. So what you see as remote storage is basically if you want to write to a Prometheus instance, you write you're set to be a Prometheus remote write exporter. Sorry, it's just a lot of words, and I try to pronounce it over and over again. So I'm really sorry.
Don't worry, Matt. It's totally fine.
Sorry. So we act as a remote write exporter and other Prometheus instances. So for now, we've tested 3 separate things. Originally, it was started to be integrated with New Relics. Then I tested Grafana Cloud, and also I tested locally with the Prometheus instance itself and Grafana. So it was a local deployment, and it like used for testing. So currently, what I know, it works with these 3. I think, I'm not sure, but I think Thanos and Cortex also has support for receiving remote write requests. So back to what I've done. So if you go to the K6 docs and Cloud Docs, there's this Cloud Docs thing section, and it like explains what Cloud APM is and what providers are supported. So each new integration we add to the APM feature is called a provider. So currently we support Datadog, Azure Monitor, and Prometheus, which is of interest here. And I explained how to configure this feature. It's pretty simple. You just have to add. Yeah, go.
Sorry, I was just going to say this might be a good time, since you're on this page, to answer this question from Amrin. What kind of metrics can we track via Prometheus with K6?
Everything that K6 produces can be exported to Prometheus.
So that includes custom metrics as well, then, I guess.
Yes, so built-in metrics and custom metrics. So
Awesome.
built-in metrics are HTTP and a lot of good things, and customers are counter, rate, gauge, and the other one, trend. Yeah, all these four are supported. So
That's awesome. And now that we're actually on the topic, I just want to chime in and say that does this only work for K6 Cloud? What about in-house K6 support with Prometheus? And on that note, well, it is for K6 Cloud. What we're talking about today is for K6 Cloud only. But if you have a local installation of K6 and you would like to export via Prometheus for that one as well, you can have a look at the Prometheus StatsD exporter, which you could use together with K6 and the StatsD format to export to whatever Prometheus compatible data source you have, so or receiver you have. So I'm just linking that in the chat so you can have a look at that as well, Amrin.
yeah, I will also add these two new Prometheus XK6 extensions. So we have XK6 dash Prometheus and XK6 dash remote write. So if you look at these two, the XK6 Prometheus uses exposes an endpoint as in the normal way, and XK6 remote write uh, does exactly what the cloud uh, counterpart does.
I'll go ahead and link
Not
those two
exactly, but
as well in
like
the
the same
chat.
thing. Yeah. So yeah, configuring APM is like as you might have worked with it. It's fairly simple. Um, so this is the configuration. I will go to the Prometheus section after this, like small, like short
And
explanation
that's
of.
also where you can select which metrics you want to export. You can put it in the metric section,
Yeah, exactly.
including custom ones, which is so awesome.
Yes. Okay,
Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, it's okay. So inside options, there's this extension thing, and that's an old part of our script configuration, which we are, I think, I don't know the timeline, but we are going to change this into cloud config and have it as a type level option. But anyhow, the ext is an object that holds this load impact, which is obvious. Inside that, you should have an object that is an array or a list of APM configuration objects. So depending on your subscription, you can have like for now, up to 3 different configuration objects. And each configuration object uh, describes one specific provider, which should be unique. I mean, you cannot send to 2 Prometheus servers at the same time. This is not possible at the moment. So you define your provider, which is listed here, Datadog, Azure Monitor, or Prometheus. Then there's this provider-specific configuration, which I will talk about. Then you have the metrics that you can add, because like the default metrics that we include are only these metrics: data sent, received, request duration, recs, iteration, and views. These are called default built-in metrics in Cloud APM.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so you
if
don't
you
have to specify those. So if you specify
no,
nothing, all of those will still be sent.
yeah, if you say include default
Okay.
metrics true, then all of these metrics are sent. If you want
Mm,
anything else, any of the other built-in metrics that are exported or saved in our cloud platform, you should you should mention them here. So HTTP rec sending is a built-in metric, but this is not sent by default. So you should like
mhm.
point to this like in this key. And if you have a custom metric that you've like populate in your code, just you have to just mention it here, and yeah, it's exported. The other thing is the include default test run ID, which is if you set it to true, this is for cost reasons, we've disabled this feature because like it creates a new dimension in vendors databases. So if you want to include the test run ID of the test run that you're exporting metrics to the vendor as a tag, then you should set this to true. So that's that.
Okay, and in what case would you like to want to do that?
Because like if you are continuously, like if you've scheduled test runs on our cloud platform and you're constantly running tests, and if you don't send the test run ID, then you might get kind of a bad graph, or you cannot filter by that test run
Okay, you,
ID.
you won't be able to tell where it starts and stops because it will just be a continuous time series, basically.
Yeah, with gaps in between,
Okay.
if there is gaps. Yeah, so that's because of that. That's basically it. These are the built-in metrics.
Another question from
Yeah,
Amrin. Can we track metrics for each HTTP request run within a scenario or just an aggregated metric?
good question. That's an aggregated metric. So, okay.
It would be very expensive if we were to send each HTTP request over, given that you can have like 10,000 VUs running at the same time, all producing data. So I think it's in everyone's best interest to keep it an aggregated metric for that
Exactly.
very reason.
Exactly. And also it would overwhelm our backend and also the vendors because like,
Yeah.
okay, so the cloud APM aggregates metric by at least 1 second duration. So you cannot have a less than 1 second duration for the aggregation, which I will explain shortly. So there's something called, if I go to Prometheus remote write, you see that there is something called resample rate, which is how metrics are aggregated. By default, it's set to 3 for Datadog and Prometheus, and it can be set and it's a seconds, so 1 second and 3 seconds. It can be set by an integer between 1 and 10. So if you want less granular data on your platform, you set it to 10. But if you want more granular data, like down to 1 second, you set it to 1. But by default, if you don't set it, it's 3.
We should probably take a couple of seconds just to highlight some comments from Daniel before we proceed. Sorry for interrupting you again, Mostafa.
That's okay. Yeah.
But yeah, the remote write XK6 extension, that's mainly for load testing a remote write endpoint. So while it could be used for actually sending metrics over via remote write, it's not the primary use case. So in that case, I would probably use the XK6 Prometheus one or StatsD exporter.
Yeah, good hints.
And he also mentions, Daniel, from his vacation, by the way, that he that we could use the distributed tracing extension to actually send details about each specific request, and even in that case, tag it with additional metadata or tracing data from within our services that we are testing. So that's probably a better solution for you, Amrin, if you want to actually have a look at each individual request. They serve a little bit of different purposes.
Yeah.
Having used the StatsD way, though, to export to New Relic, it, definitely this way is a lot easier to set up. if that's something that you might want to consider, because yeah, I think this one just requires something in the code. With StatsD is a little bit more fiddling around.
And also having an agent running for some specific
Yeah,
platforms and
and
stuff. Yeah.
it doesn't work with K6 Cloud,
Yeah.
so that's a very big thing too.
Yep. So yeah, Okay,
Are you
so
going to show us Grafana?
yep, shortly. So, okay, so if you want to configure remote write, you just have to like read this documentation, and then like for Grafana Cloud that I'm going to show, you just have to like copy paste this and then replace this like remote write URL that Grafana gives you, which I will show there, and also the credentials. So there's a username and an API key which you should extract and then put it here, and you're good to go. So for setting up Prometheus, you just create a stack on Grafana Labs, uh, and then you go to the details here, and here it is. So you have a remote write endpoint, which is this, and then you have a username here, and also the password, which is the API key. So you generate an API key to be able to send data to like Grafana Cloud or Prometheus from our platform. So when you're creating this thing, you should create what is called a metrics publisher role. So just assign this so that you can be able to, like, your platform can be able to receive these metrics, which is this, which I will show shortly. Yeah, let's go and see what we can have here. Yeah, do I need to explain the script or just? I don't know.
No, we can just if you want to have a look at a standard or a small casing script, you can have a look at one of the earlier episodes of Office Hours or look in the docs. So we can just skip for the sake of just not taking too much time. I think it's better we just
Okay. Yeah. Understood. Okay. So I have an APM test here that is configured to send data to Prometheus on Grafana Cloud. It has two scenarios, one up and down, which is a ramping view scenario with that starts at 1 minute and has two stages. And there's this constant views or constant view load that has 100 views and has a duration of 5 minutes. And also there's this load zone, which is like not so important. I wanted to explain this part. So if I can uncomment, if you have a Prometheus instance running somewhere, I don't know, DigitalOcean, AWS somewhere, then if you expose it to outside world, then you can use this API /v1/write to whatever your URL is, and then export metrics data to that Prometheus instance. So that's as simple as this. So for this Grafana Cloud, we just set the provider to Prometheus, and then the remote write URL, which you've seen here. Yes, this is the URL that I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. And then the username that's just extracted from here, I think. Yep. And then the password, which I will change as Simme suggested. Yeah, this is the API key. Anyway, there are 4 metrics here that are like 4 custom metrics. These are just for demo purposes. It's just nothing serious. So there's a trend, a rate, a gauge, a counter, and they are going to be exported as metrics that are being exported from APM or Cloud APM to Prometheus. So these are those like custom metrics, and also that the HTTP request failed, which is recently added, is not exported by default. So I added it. And yeah, the resample rate is 1 second, and the default metrics and test run ID is included. So if you do this, the built-in metrics and these custom metrics are sent together to Prometheus. So just so you know. Okay, that's very basic. So I will go and start this test so that we can query what we have in Prometheus. Yeah.
Let's just take a moment to address the beauty of this animation, because I rarely get to see this as I'm mostly working with the OSS product, but it really is so smooth, so slick. I love it.
Indeed, yeah, it's really nice. So eventually the data will be sent to Prometheus. Okay, so like, let's wait till this starts sending. So there are some limits and some some design decisions we've made while creating this, and those are that, like, if you have a test, okay, that's an internal thing, but we send data that are aggregated. So in order for those aggregated data to be available in our database, because there are a lot of metrics that are aggregated all at the same time, we should wait some time to start the APM process. As you see, it took like 1 minute for the Prometheus for the cloud APM to start sending metrics to Prometheus. So that 1 minute is for us to be able to have some data in our database so that we can query and start sending to Prometheus. So this is the, as you can see, I've went here, explore, and then to, I think, prom. Yep. And as you can see, metrics are getting sent to this platform. So the counter errors and error rates, data sent, these are the built-in, these are the, these are the built-ins, and these are the custom metrics. Okay, so the simplest one is the HTTP recs, the number of HTTP requests that we make. Let me decrease this and also add this. This is a rate, and we want to have it over 5 minutes. So this is the output. Yeah, as simple as that. This is the test run ID, 1324. And yeah, this is the output.
Awesome.
Cool.
Ta-da!
It looks great.
As simple as that. Yeah. So
I actually got the chance to try this out just like an hour ago or something. So it was very easy to set up. As I was saying earlier, I had been using the StatsD integration, and I thought that this was like by far the easier solution for a noob like me to set up. If you're done, maybe I can show a little bit of what I had to do for New Relic.
of course, it's just one more thing.
Sure.
That, like, while you're seeing this progress, if you have multiple APM configuration, then you see multiple icons and like the names of the providers, and also the time that the export is started. Because if I move the mouse, this will get high. So I'm pointing at it just by finger. Anyway, so it is started at this point, and the last time that we exported metrics, as you have seen, that's updated, is like 1540. So it's a like a GMT thing, or UTC. I don't know. So yeah, that's it. So if you see that metrics are like behind, that's because we don't have enough aggregated data in our database to send. If we do, then we will send it. So that's it.
One thing that I'd just like to pinpoint before we go over to the New Relic showcase as well is that I really think that the possibility to have multiple providers is such a killer feature. I mean, if you wanted to, you, for instance, for your local dev team, you could have a local Grafana installation or whatever that you send your metrics to, and then if you have some kind of global or organization-wide APM that other teams are interested in having your data in as well, you could just add that as well and have it write to both of them at the same time. So it really
Exactly.
opens up a whole new world of possible collaborations with the data that you produce as part of your load test, which is really cool.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So I mentioned it at the beginning before explaining all of this, that you can have your own hosted version on premise, and then expose a URL to the outside world, and then let us push metrics to your Prometheus instance. That's it. Yep.
So cool. Thanks for showing that.
Thank you.
Cool. Let me set my screen up. Okay, so New Relic is actually really easy. I just went to New Relic's documentation, which we linked to in our documentation. But basically, they have this kind of wizard where you just pick an account. I don't want to actually do it because I'm gonna try and not show my token.
No, that's okay. I
But
mean,
it's
we've talked about this token before, so I will like know this token after the show.
that's all right. But yeah, you just select an account and then you call it something specific, and then what that will do is it'll give you the remote write URL and the bearer token that you're going to need to put into your K6 script. So, like if we go to VS Code, so I removed the credentials here, but this part
job.
is the one that Mostafa was showing earlier. I didn't change anything else in the script. I literally just pasted that in, and then you get the URL and the token from that New Relic wizard. I
One thing I wanted
actually,
to mention, sorry.
yep,
Our integration supports two authentication methods. One is the HTTP basic auth, which you provide username and password, as you've seen in the Grafana cloud setup that I've shown. And in the case of New Relic, New Relic provides a bearer token, which is basically called the
yep.
token in our configuration. And yeah, you just provide the token and you're good to go.
Yeah. So, and I actually already have something running in the background here. Not sure why there's an error there, but doesn't affect the Prometheus part. So this is running it on the cloud. So let me jump over to K6. I started this like 10 minutes ago or something, just to already have some data in there. This is what it looks like in K6, pretty much the same as what Mostafa showed. There's the Prometheus one here. But if we go to New Relic, you'll see that it's just already being pulled in. So I didn't know what you were talking, how you were saying that you don't actually need this. So I didn't have
No,
to
it
specify that
gets
after
removed
all.
if you. So if you provide built-in metrics that are already in this like list, I will remove, like I will kind of deduplicate them
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
So you
so
don't
I
have to.
really only needed to have this one, which isn't one of
Yeah.
the default ones. So let's see if we can also see it here. Rec failed.
Yep.
There it is. So we're seeing it in real time, and this one does have some errors that I expect. So you can create your own dashboard using whatever metrics you've got. But the cool thing that I noticed is that because New Relic knows that like they have a Prometheus integration already, they just create a dashboard for you. So I didn't
Yes.
do any of this, and it's all already there, which is kind of a cool touch. So it's pretty. There's
Yeah,
a
you
lot
can
of
monitor.
interesting information.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Monitor that you're
but to
getting
have
those metrics or not. Yeah, which
yeah,
is cool.
but I just thought it was a cool touch to just have this automatically created for me and starred,
Yeah,
and it's just easy to use. That was pretty much it. And
that's
just
it.
to show you like what I had to do with the previous one, for the stats, in addition to starting the Docker container for it, I also needed to use a helper JavaScript file, and I mean like I didn't have to do any of this with this one.
Yeah,
All I had to
that's
do
the
was
magic,
was this bit. Yeah. So you did a great job actually. I'm
Thank
very
you.
happy with it.
Thank you.
Couldn't you have made this like a month earlier or something so I could have just skipped the whole stats D
I
part?
was actually developing it like a month ago, so yeah.
I know. I was really trying not to bug you about it. I was like, "Hey, is it done?" Just asking, you know.
Yeah, I remember those times.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just significantly easier for me.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I just wanted to, for you, like the whole company and me specifically, because I've developed it, wanted to have such a user experience, like even ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah. Let me just
because like there are
remove
so many
this.
APIs to integrate with, but then when you're going toward the standard like way of um, exporting metrics, then everything changes. You know. And also,
Yeah.
one last thing: uh, if you're if you want to export to your own hosted Prometheus, Prometheus by default, this is a kind of an experimental feature, so it's disabled by default. So you just have to pass this enable feature remote write receiver for your Prometheus instance to be able to receive this remote write request, and also that you should have it in your configuration so that you can receive remote writes. Yeah, that's
And
one
it's so
thing to
cool as
know.
So
well, I think, that we actually have the possibility to use these standards. I mean, we at least at K6, we don't believe in locking people in by using obscure data formats or things like that. If you want
Yeah,
to switch vendor, you should be able to switch vendor without too much work, right? So it's really nice to see that some kind of standard is emerging that allows you to do that without too much hassle. Goes for APM vendors, performance testing tools, all alike.
exactly. Yeah.
so I actually did create my own Prometheus server. DigitalOcean has a one-click droplet, and so I just did that. And then after that, all I had to do was go into configuration, and I changed the remote write URL and the bearer token as well, which thankfully it's not showing. But yeah, I haven't actually looked at it yet. Beyond that,
Yeah, it's that simple.
Okay, so that's actually an example of what Mostafa was showing earlier in the diagram with writing to a Prometheus instance and then remote writing from that instance to another instance. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
Easy as well. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
so I think that the original purpose was for New Relic. Is that right? I think there was a time when were calling it the New Relic integration.
Yeah. So originally we wanted to uh, develop an integration only with New Relic, but then we talked about it and discussed that we should go like like try to use standard formats
Mm.
instead of adding new APIs and every new API, as I mentioned before, every new API has its own format, and you should like change some parts of the code and add a new integration to be able to export to that format. Like for example, Azure Monitor has a specific format, which is a little bit, I would say, strange. Um, yeah, so because it was really hard to be able to export to that specific format. But anyhow, like Datadog is a much easier format to export to, or even Prometheus. Prometheus is easier than the other two. So yeah, that's it.
And I mean,
Yeah. So sorry, I just
yeah, sure,
forgot.
go.
Sorry. So, but by deciding to go uh, and exposing a standard format, we decided to choose either StatsD or Prometheus, and then I investigated more and saw that Prometheus is more promising in that sense, and suggested Prometheus. And yeah, also Daniel advocated for it a lot. So that was why I went into like testing and trying to see how it works behind the scenes and all of these things. And yeah, that's basically why. And then um, New Relic just became one of the integrations that works with our cloud API. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that kind of is the point as well. I think that we had Datadog as a supported integration, and we also had Azure Monitoring as their separate integrations. But
Yeah.
once you start to amass a couple of these integrations, say that you want to integrate with 10 different products that all do mainly the same thing, and the maintenance burden of just keeping that afloat once they start to change things is really cumbersome, right? So
Exactly. Yes.
being able to follow this standard and just cut all that away, and we get one integration to actually maintain rather than
To
10
rule them
separate
all.
ones. Yeah. So really good job, and looking forward to using it more going forward.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was basically it. So the decision was made to go with Prometheus, and yeah. So the thing is, Prometheus metrics in Prometheus are more natural to how we store and process metrics internally, and how we expose metrics from cases. Because basically, what we have in Prometheus is like Prometheus is written in Golang. K6 is also written in Golang. I mean, like the backend is in Python, but anyway, we can easily like what we expose from K6 is much more natural to Prometheus than to Datadog and Azure. So that was also one other reason why we decided to go with Prometheus. And yeah, I think I'm not so sure. I haven't tested it, but I think the same exact integration can also work with um, open metrics collectors and stuff. I'm not sure. I haven't tested it. That's an exercise for the audience.
And I also wanted to shout out your recent presentation. We're linking to it from the K6 channel as well. I believe it's in Persian, right?
Like the presentation is in Persian, but the slides are in English. So
Okay, let me just put the link to that one as well, because I thought it was really cool just to see K6 being talked about in different languages. Simme, do you have your SLOconf link handy?
Yeah, if you could just talk about something else for a couple of seconds, I'll make sure
Sure.
to fetch it.
Well, I'll plug my one. So I'm speaking next week, 27th, at what time is it? At night in the New Relic Future Stack Conference, where I don't show the solution. I show the StatsD solution because that was pre-recorded. Sorry about
Oh,
that. But now
that's
you
okay.
know there's like a new updated version of it that's way easier. but my talk is called Schrodinger's Pokemon. So sign up for that if you would like to see that.
Yeah, nice. Also,
And this
like
is Simme's. Yep, go on.
yeah. So when I first joined the company, I was like really amazed by the open source product itself, and also obviously the cloud product. And I started writing about K6 because I thought at that time there were no good like beginner tutorials. So I wrote some on Medium, and also now I've migrated them to my own blog, Mostafa.dev, if you want to know. And if you want to start with K6, those are the entry points. And also the videos that Nicole has worked on is really also awesome for starting with K6 if you want to know K6. Yeah, thank you.
And I think Simme, you found your the link to your SLOconf talk as well.
Yeah. So the SLOconf was last week, and there was a lot of really inspiring and great talks there. And then there also was my talk about error economics. So if you're interested in SLOs and how to apply error economics, or rather error budgets, on your load tests, feel free to give that a look. It's a really
Nice.
promising field, and it's starting to emerge a couple of standards there as well that I think will really change how we think about SLOs and how we do that in even in K6. But the future will tell.
Yeah. Any questions?
Well, and I just posted the link to Future Stack as well. I don't get paid by New Relic, by the way. I just happen to like New Relic. I do have swag though, so I mean that's kind of payment, right?
Yeah.
See, look, is this not awesome?
It is. Yes. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And the other
Anyway.
side is fun as well.
Oh, I didn't show that.
Use
Use a mask.
Thank you, New Relic, and Gary Spencer from New Relic in particular. But if you want to know more about New Relic, we've had two people from New Relic on now. Last week we had Nochnika Fee I'm sorry, and Gary Spencer. So you can go through the archive for that.
And we're hoping
Any
to
other
schedule
last?
Nika for another session really soon. We
Yes.
don't have a date yet, but she will definitely come back and continue on the
With
event-driven testing.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I wanted to meet with him and also like see the presentation and stuff. So I'm also interested. Like I've written an XK6 extension for Kafka for load testing. Basically consumers, because like load testing producers are like not a thing. But yeah, so I can talk about that if you want in another session. So
Definitely.
Yeah, she said that she wanted to have a chat with you as well. Any
nice.
last words before we close this off?
Yes. We are still hiring. So
Oh.
if you're looking for a job and would like to work with one of the most talented teams that I've ever worked with, make sure to go to k6io/jobs and have a look at the job descriptions and see whether any of them might fit you. If not, feel free to get in touch with me and or any Nicole or Mostafa as well, and we'll see if we can find an opportunity for you if you have a different set of talents than what we've actually been clever enough to figure out already.
Number one criterion is willing to go on K6 office hours.
Yep.
No, not really, but it's a plus.
Anything you'd like to promote, Mostafa?
Yeah, just go to my Twitter account. I usually post, not very much, but yeah, I post about technology stuff, mostly Python, and also things I work on. And yeah, also my blog is mustafa.dev if you want to read about read my blog posts and stuff. And yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll
Thank you
have you
for
back
having me.
again.
Yeah,
And
of
thank you
course.
everybody else who joined us and for the questions. It was great.
Thanks
Have
Thank
for
a
you so
great
listening.
much.
weekend, everybody.
It
You
was a
Bye.
too.
blast.
Bye.
Bye.